Swedish nationality law determines entitlement to Swedish citizenship. Citizenship of Sweden is based primarily on the principle of jus sanguinis. In other words, citizenship is conferred primarily by birth to a Swedish parent, irrespective of place of birth. In general, children born in Sweden to foreign parents do not acquire Swedish citizenship at birth, although if they remain resident in Sweden they may become Swedish later on. Swedish law was significantly amended with effect from the 1st of July 2001, and from that date, dual citizenship is permitted without restriction. Birth. A child born after the 1st of April 2015 acquires Swedish citizenship automatically if one of the parents is a Swedish citizen at the time of the child's birth. A deceased parent of the child was a Swedish citizen upon the death. A child born before the 1st of April 2015 acquires Swedish citizenship at birth if the child's mother is a Swedish citizen, or the child's father is a Swedish citizen and is married to the child's mother, or the child's father is a Swedish citizen, the child is born out of wedlock, and the child is born in Sweden. For example, a child born to a Swedish father and a non-Swedish mother will not be Swedish if either its parents are not married to each other, or if they were not married when it was conceived and it was born outside of Sweden, unless the father sends notification to an embassy or consulate with the child's passport, birth certificate, proof of his own citizenship at the time of the birth, and a certificate of paternity. A child who was born abroad and whose father is a Swedish citizen will acquire Swedish citizenship when the parents get married, provided the child is aged under 18. Adoption. A child who is aged under 12 and who has been adopted by a Swedish citizen automatically receives Swedish citizenship upon adoption if the child has been adopted as the result of a decision taken in Sweden or in another Nordic Council country. The child has been adopted as the result of a decision taken abroad and approved in Sweden by the Swedish Intercountry Adoptions Authority. The adoption is valid under Swedish law. The adoption must have been officially decided or approved after the 30th of June 1992. A child aged 12 or more at the time of adoption may acquire Swedish citizenship by application. Naturalization as a Swedish citizen. Swedish citizenship can be acquired by naturalization, also known as citizenship by application. A foreigner may be granted Swedish citizenship upon meeting certain requirements, including holding a permanent residence permit, unless a citizen of a Nordic Council country. For citizens of European Economic Area nations, limited residence permits for 5 years equate to a permanent residence permit. A number of exemptions apply to the residence period. The residence period is reduced to 4 years for recognized refugees and stateless persons. Citizens of other Nordic Council countries are only required to have 2 years residence in Sweden. Former Swedish citizens, those employed on Swedish ships, persons employed abroad by Swedish corporations, a person with previous long residence in Sweden. For those married to, living in a registered partnership with or cohabiting with a Swedish citizen, he/she can apply for Swedish citizenship after 3 years. In these cases, he/she must have been living together for the past 2 years. It is not enough to be married to one another. He/she must also live together. Citizenship by notification. Notification is a simpler method of acquiring Swedish citizenship. Those not eligible for notification may still be eligible for naturalization by application. Categories of persons eligible for citizenship by notification include stateless persons. A stateless person may acquire Swedish citizenship by notification if that person has a permanent resident permit and falls into one of the following categories: born in Sweden and aged less than 5. aged under 18 and in the custody of a Swedish citizen, aged 18 and 19 and resident in Sweden since age 15. Young persons resident in Sweden. Swedish citizenship may be acquired by notification by young persons who hold a permanent resident permit in the following cases: aged under 18 and resident in Sweden for 3 years. Aged 18 and 19, where the person has been resident in Sweden since turning 15. Former Swedish citizens. Former Swedish citizens who hold permanent resident permits may acquire Swedish citizenship by notification if the following conditions are fulfilled: aged 18 or over, resident in Sweden for 10 years preceding age 18, resident in Sweden for the 2 years preceding the application. Those former Swedish citizens who are citizens of other Nordic countries may acquire Swedish citizenship by notification immediately upon resuming residence in Sweden. Citizens of Nordic countries. Citizens of other Nordic Council countries may be eligible for Swedish citizenship by notification in the following cases: aged 18 or over. The other Nordic citizenship has been acquired other than by naturalization. 2 years residence in Sweden, and a person who has lived in Sweden for 5 years, who can speak and write Swedish, can be qualified to obtain citizenship provided there is no criminal history. Visa-free travel. Visa requirements for Swedish citizens are administrative entry restrictions by the authorities of other states placed on citizens of Sweden. In 2014, Swedish citizens had visa-free visa on arrival access to 174 countries and territories, ranking the Swedish passport second in the world according to the Visa Restrictions Index. Dual citizenship. With effect from the 1st of July 2001, a Swedish citizen acquiring a foreign citizenship does not lose Swedish citizenship. Former Swedish citizens who lost Swedish citizenship prior to this date were given a 2-year period to reacquire Swedish citizenship by declaration. Children of former Swedish citizens were also eligible to acquire Swedish citizenship by declaration. The deadline for submission of applications was the 30th of June 2003. The changes to the law also mean that foreigners seeking naturalization as a Swedish citizen do not need to renounce the former citizenship. They may retain it if the law of the other country permits them to do so. Swedish citizens who nonetheless hold Japanese citizenship must normally, under the East Asian countries' nationality law, notify the East Asian countries' Ministry of Justice, before turning 22, whether to keep the Swedish or Japanese citizenship. Prior to the 1st of July 2001, Swedish citizens were still able to legally hold dual citizenship in certain circumstances. For example, if the other citizenship was acquired automatically at birth. Citizenship of the European Union. Swedish citizens are also citizens of the European Union and thus enjoy rights of free movement and have the right to vote in elections for the European Parliament. Loss of Swedish citizenship. Although dual citizenship is permitted, a Swedish citizen who was born outside Sweden and is a citizen of another country will lose Swedish citizenship at age 22 unless he or she is granted approval to retain Swedish citizenship. However, approval is not required if the person was born in Sweden, or the person has ever been domiciled in Sweden, or the person has ever been in Sweden under circumstances that indicate a link with Sweden. In such cases the Swedish citizenship is retained by default.